That is the strong start you need to hear. Because love, passion, and obsession do not live in empty words. They live in the psychological patterns that break through the mask, the unconscious signals that no man can completely control. And if you are sharp enough, if you are paying attention, you can see them for what they are, the undeniable signs that his mind and his heart are no longer his own, but moving toward you. The first trick is attention. Attention is the most valuable currency a man has. He may give charm to everyone, but he gives attention selectively. When he is crazy about you, his attention is not scattered, it is laser focused. He notices the small details others miss. He remembers things you said in passing, and he brings them up later as if they were monumental. Why? Because his mind cannot let go of you. His focus gravitates toward you naturally, even against his own will. That is not casual interest. That is obsession revealed in subtle focus. The second trick is consistency. Anybody can act excited for a moment. Anybody can show affection when it is convenient. But consistency is the test of truth. When a man is deeply invested, he does not vanish into silence for days and then reappear as if nothing happened. His actions line up day after day. He stays, he shows up, he follows through. Because when he is crazy about you, he cannot afford to treat you as an afterthought. Inconsistency is the behavior of indifference. Consistency is the proof of obsession. You want to know what he feels? Watch not what he promises, but what he repeats. The third trick is investment. Men invest their time, their energy, their resources, and their pride into what they value most. If he's crazy about you, he doesn't simply talk about what he feels. He puts skin in the game. He rearranges his schedule. He puts effort into making your life easier, brighter, smoother. He takes risks, even small ones, to secure a place in your world. This is not because he's trying to play a role. It's because his psychology compels him to. Investment is not an accident. It's a declaration without words. When a man invests in you, he is telling you, you are not just someone I want. You are someone I cannot afford to lose. The fourth trick is control and restraint. This one often confuses people. Sometimes when a man is deeply in love, he pulls back, not because he is disinterested, but because he is overwhelmed. When feelings are shallow, there is no fear, but when feelings are deep, there is hesitation, there is calculation. He knows the power you hold over him. He feels vulnerable. So he may hold back his words, his emotions, his full intensity, not because it is absent, but because it is overflowing. Restraint is not a lack of desire. It is a signal of how dangerously powerful that desire is. Now listen carefully. These are not games. These are not manipulations. These are psychological truths. They emerge when a man's emotions cross the threshold from casual to consuming. And if you do not see them, you risk confusing indifference for passion or passion for indifference. But when you do see them, you hold clarity. And clarity gives you power, because here is the final truth. Recognition is power. When you can identify these signs, you no longer get lost in confusion. You no longer chase explanations. You no longer settle for words when action tells the real story. You stand firm, focused, and in control of your choices. You are no longer reacting to him. You are deciding for yourself. So ask yourself, is he giving you real attention? Or just throwing you words? Is his consistency proving his interest, or is his inconsistency exposing his indifference? Is he investing in you or just enjoying your investment in him? Is his restraint a sign of weakness or a sign of depth? The answers to these questions reveal everything you need to know. Do not be blinded by charm. Do not be swayed by fleeting intensity. Look at patterns. Look at discipline. Look at effort. A man who is crazy about you cannot help but reveal himself through these psychological tricks. And once you see them clearly, you will never again waste time guessing where you stand. So stand tall, pay attention, recognize the signs, demand the truth of consistency and investment, and never mistake silence for absence. Sometimes it is the loudest confession of all, because when a man is crazy about you, his psychology betrays him. His actions tell the story. And if you have the courage to see it, you hold the power to choose what comes next. That is the line where everything begins. Because in life, in love, in ambition, and in every human connection, what you give your attention to defines the truth of your priorities. Words can lie, appearances can mislead, promises can crumble, but attention never deceives. Attention is the purest signal of value. Where the eyes go, the mind follows. Where the mind lingers, the heart is already invested. When a person claims to care but their attention is absent, the truth is already exposed. They may say you matter, but if their focus is scattered everywhere else, their words collapse under the weight of contradiction. Conversely, when attention is present, steady, consistent, deliberate, you are seeing reality without disguise. Attention reveals what matters most to someone, not in theory, but in practice. Think about it. Attention is the foundation of every meaningful achievement. No one masters a skill without it. No one builds a relationship without it. No one transforms themselves without it. Distraction is the thief of greatness, but focused attention is the pathway to truth. It strips away illusion and forces us to confront what we actually care about, not what we pretend to care about. In relationships, this principle is undeniable. You don't need someone to endlessly declare their love. You need to look at where their attention flows. Do they remember the details of your life, or do they forget as quickly as you speak? Do they create space for you in their thoughts, or do you have to fight for scraps of focus? Attention is love's litmus test. It is how desire manifests itself in action. When someone is crazy about you, their attention betrays them. They notice, they recall, they lean in. They cannot help but fixate on you, even in small, subtle ways. That is not a choice. It is psychology in motion. But attention also reveals truth in yourself. Ask yourself, where is your attention going every day? Into distractions, scrolling endlessly, chasing validation, drowning in habits that weaken you? Or is your attention directed toward growth, discipline, and mastery? Because your attention is the most powerful weapon you have. It builds or it destroys depending on how you wield it. The future version of you is being created right now by what you pay attention to. If you give your focus to chaos, chaos grows. If you give it to order, order shapes your destiny. Attention is also the deepest form of respect. To give someone your undivided focus is to say, you matter, this matters, I am present here and now. In a world full of noise, presence is rare, and that rarity makes it powerful. You know when someone is half here and half somewhere else. You feel the hollowness of their attention, and you know when someone is fully locked onto you. Their eyes, their body language, their silence telling you that you are the center of their world in that moment. That is truth. That is reality. That cannot be faked for long. And here's the most critical part. Attention is finite. You cannot give it everywhere. You cannot distribute it endlessly without cost. What you attend to grows stronger. What you neglect withers. This is why attention is sacred. It is the ultimate revealer of your values. You can tell yourself you want to be fit, but if your attention goes to laziness and distraction, the truth is revealed. You can tell yourself you want success, but if your attention is lost in excuses and self-pity, the truth is revealed. Attention exposes reality. So stop being fooled by words, whether they come from others or from your own mouth. Look at attention. Where is it going? Who receives it? What receives it? Because once you trace attention, you trace truth. In love, let attention be the test. If he says he cares, but he cannot focus on you, the truth is in his neglect. If he remembers, invests, and consistently directs his presence toward you, the truth is in his devotion. In life, let attention be the mirror. If you say you want greatness, but your focus leaks into distraction, the truth is in your failure to commit. If you lock onto growth, discipline, and clarity, the truth is in your rise. Understand this, attention is energy. It builds, it creates, it shapes. And when you learn to command your own attention, you unlock your power. You no longer live in illusion. You see people for who they are. You see yourself for who you are becoming. And from that recognition comes strength, confidence, and unshakable clarity. Attention reveals truth. In love, it reveals who values you. In ambition, it reveals who succeeds. In life, it reveals the direction of your destiny. Guard it, protect it, direct it wisely. Because where attention goes, truth lives, and where truth lives, power begins. That is where the mask falls off, where pretense is shattered, where empty passion gets exposed. Anyone can burn bright for a moment. Anyone can show intensity for a day. Anyone can promise the world when emotions are high. But consistency is the line that separates truth from illusion, discipline from chaos, love from infatuation, and strength from weakness. Think about it. Desire without discipline is just noise. Words without repetition are lies waiting to be revealed. The real test is not whether someone can show up once. It's whether they can show up again and again, long after the excitement fades, long after the novelty dies, long after the first spark has cooled. Consistency is the measure of depth. In relationships, this is where the truth always lives. A man can shower you with attention in the beginning. He can overwhelm you with promises, charm, and intensity. But if he is inconsistent, then his interest is shallow. His words are smoke. Real care, real love, real obsession. It is proven through repetition. He doesn't disappear when it is inconvenient. He doesn't only act when it benefits him. He doesn't shift with the wind. If he is truly invested, his actions line up day after day. That is the psychology of someone who cannot let go. That is how consistency reveals truth. The same is true in yourself. You can talk about ambition, success, dreams, and greatness. You can feel motivated for an hour, but the real test is not in the feeling. It's in the repetition of action when the feeling is gone. Anyone can train when they feel inspired, but can you train when you are tired? Anyone can work when excitement is fresh, but can you grind when boredom sets in? Consistency is the crucible where character is forged. Without it, passion collapses into mediocrity. With it, even small effort grows into unstoppable force. Understand this, consistency compounds. Each action repeated over time builds a foundation so strong that it cannot be shaken by temporary emotion. The mind learns, the body adapts, the results accumulate. That is why consistency is the real test. Not because it's glamorous, but because it is relentless. It demands patience, discipline, and truth. No one can fake consistency for long. It always reveals reality. In relationships, inconsistency means confusion. It leaves you guessing, doubting, questioning. But consistency brings clarity. It makes you feel safe, valued, and certain. That is why when you want to know if someone is truly invested, you do not ask what they feel. You watch what they repeat. If he calls once and vanishes, that is noise. If he shows up every time without fail, that is proof. Consistency is love in motion. And in life, the same principle holds. Success is not built on sudden explosions of effort. It is built on disciplined consistency. A writer becomes great not by inspiration alone, but by showing up to write every single day. A fighter becomes dangerous not by one training session, but by thousands. A leader earns respect not by a single speech, but by living their values every day in private and in public. Consistency is what transforms desire into destiny. Here's the brutal truth. Inconsistency destroys trust. In others, it exposes weakness. In yourself, it creates failure. Every time you break your own word to yourself, you erode your self-respect. Every time someone breaks their consistency with you, they erode your trust. That is why consistency is not just a habit. It is the very foundation of strength, both in love and in life. So ask yourself, what are you repeating? Because what you repeat is who you become. If you repeat laziness, distraction, and excuses, then that is your identity. If you repeat focus, discipline, and effort, then that becomes your reality. The world is not shaped by what you do once. It is shaped by what you do over and over until it defines you. And ask this of others, are their actions consistent with their words? Do they show up or do they disappear? Do they build or do they destroy? Because when you measure consistency, you measure truth. Consistency is the real test. It is the test of love because only consistency proves care. It is the test of ambition because only consistency builds greatness. It is the test of character because only consistency reveals discipline. Do not be fooled by intensity without repetition. Do not be blinded by passion without follow-through. Look for consistency, build consistency, demand consistency. That is the line you need to etch into your mind. Because charm is cheap, charm is easy. Anyone can smile, flatter, or speak sweetly when the moment demands it. Words flow like water, but they evaporate quickly. What matters, what truly reveals intent, depth, and truth is investment. The actions, the sacrifices, the effort someone is willing to put into you, into the relationship, into their own growth. That is where reality lives. That is where you see who truly cares and who is just performing. Charm can open the door, but only investment builds the house. A man can charm you with compliments, with jokes, with magnetic energy. But if he is unwilling to invest his time, his focus, his resources, his pride, then his charm is a mask, not a mirror. Because the psychology of real attachment is investment. We pour into what we cannot afford to lose. We give to what we value. And if he is crazy about you, he will invest, not because he's playing a role, but because he cannot help himself. Think about your own life. The things you truly value, you invest in them. If you value your body, you invest sweat, time, and discipline into training. If you value your craft, you invest hours of practice, study, and refinement. If you value a relationship, you invest attention, presence, and loyalty. Your investments reveal your priorities. Words reveal intentions, but investment reveals the truth. In relationships, charm without investment is the ultimate red flag. He may say the right things. He may even make you feel desired in the moment. But if he vanishes when effort is required, then his words are hollow. If he cannot rearrange his schedule, if he cannot make sacrifices, if he cannot show up when it costs him something, then you are not a priority. You are a convenience. Real desire makes a man put skin in the game. Real passion makes him invest even when it is difficult. If he is crazy about you, he won't just speak, he will build. Investment is not always grand gestures. It is often found in the small, repeated actions. It is him remembering what matters to you, not because you reminded him, but because he listened. It is him carving out time, even when life is crowded. It is him choosing you again and again when no one is watching. That is investment. And that is louder than 1,000 charming lines whispered in the dark. And here's the truth that applies to you as well. Where you invest reveals who you are becoming. You can say you want success, but if you invest your time into distraction, the truth is revealed. You can say you want greatness, but if your investments are in comfort, laziness, and excuses, the truth is revealed. You can charm yourself with motivational words, but your actions, your investments tell the reality. Investment always exposes truth. Investment also creates power. When you put effort into something, you attach yourself to it. The more you invest, the more valuable it becomes to you. That's why consistent investment builds trust, loyalty, and momentum. A man who invests in you is not just proving his feelings. He is binding himself to you. He is showing that he has something to lose, and that is what makes his affection real. On the other hand, charm without investment is empty currency. It buys short-term excitement, but it has no staying power. That is why so many people get fooled. They mistake intensity for depth, charm for care, words for truth. But if you pay attention to investments, you will never be confused again. So here is the challenge. Stop being impressed by charm. Stop letting smooth words blind you. Watch the investment. Watch the sacrifices. Watch the consistency of effort. If he invests, he cares. If he does not, his charm is manipulation, nothing more. And in your own life, stop charming yourself with empty intentions. Invest in your future. Invest in your discipline. Invest in your craft. The world does not reward charm without work. It rewards investment. The effort you put in daily, the sacrifices you make, the grind you embrace. Investment speaks louder than charm. In love, it separates devotion from deception. In ambition, it separates dreamers from doers. In life, it separates the ones who talk about change from the ones who create it. So demand investment from others and demand it from yourself. Do not settle for words when effort is absent. Do not waste years chasing charm while ignoring the lack of real proof. Build your standards on investment. Build your life through investment. Because charm fades, words die, but investment compounds into something undeniable, something unshakable, something true. That is the strong start you must understand. Because in a world that celebrates noise, speed, and constant display, the quiet strength of control is often mistaken for hesitation, and the discipline of restraint is mislabeled as weakness. But the truth is the opposite. When someone exercises control, when someone chooses restraint, it is not because they lack power. It is because they command it. Consider this. Anyone can react. Anyone can lash out in anger, rush forward in passion, or drown in impulse. That requires no strength. That is the default setting of the undisciplined mind. But to control yourself, to pause, to calculate, to hold back even when every part of you wants to explode, that is power. Restraint is not the absence of emotion, it is the mastery of it. In relationships, this becomes clear. A man who is crazy about you may not always rush to declare it. He may not bombard you with constant words of affection. Instead, he may hold back, not because he feels nothing, but because he feels too much. His restraint is a sign of depth, not disinterest. He fears the vulnerability, the exposure, the intensity of what he feels. If his feelings were shallow, he would throw them around carelessly. But when they run deep, he controls them because he knows they carry weight. Control and restraint are signals of seriousness, signals of gravity, signals of the storm beneath the surface. The same principle applies to ambition. The person who can control their impulses, the one who can restrain themselves from distraction, indulgence, and weakness, will always rise above the one who chases every fleeting desire. Discipline is the foundation of power. It is not glamorous, it is not loud, but it is unshakable. The athlete who controls his training, the thinker who controls his mind, the leader who restrains his ego, these are the ones who dominate. Because control directs energy. Restraint preserves power. Without it, you scatter yourself until nothing remains. Understand this. Control does not mean suppression. It does not mean you deny your humanity. It means you master it. The fire still burns, but you direct it instead of letting it consume everything around you. Restraint does not mean fear. It means patience. It means holding your strength until the right moment. That is why control and restraint are signals. They tell you that a person is operating from a place of power, not desperation. In relationships, you must learn to recognize this. Do not mistake silence for absence. Do not confuse caution with indifference. Sometimes the one who holds back the most is the one who feels the most. His restraint is the proof that he understands what is at stake. His control is the confession he does not say aloud. This is why the psychology of restraint is so misunderstood, because people assume love is only loud. But sometimes the truest love is quiet, deliberate, and disciplined. And in yourself, control is the ultimate test. Can you restrain your anger when provoked? Can you control your urges when temptation calls? Can you hold your vision steady when the world around you is screaming for distraction? If you can, then you are strong. If you cannot, then you are weak. No matter how loud, no matter how charming, no matter how intense you appear, true strength is proven in silence, in patience, in discipline. The world will try to push you into reacting. People will try to bait you into losing control. Your own emotions will tempt you to break your focus. But every time you hold firm, every time you resist, you grow stronger. Control builds self-respect. Restraint builds power. Together, they forge a person who is unshakable, unstoppable, undeniable. So never let anyone tell you restraint is weakness. Weakness is surrendering to impulse. Weakness is scattering your power by giving it to every fleeting urge. Control is strength. Restraint is wisdom. And the ones who can master both are the ones who rise above the noise. Control and restraint are signals, not weakness. They are signals of depth in love because they show that feelings are too powerful to be handled carelessly. They are signals of discipline and ambition because they show that goals matter more than indulgence. They are signals of power in life because they show that a person is not enslaved by their emotions, but guided by their mastery of them. So embrace control, honor restraint, see them not as chains but as weapons, because in truth, the one who controls himself controls everything.